It was late December, and I had flown to New York for a business conference. My company booked me a room at a historic hotel in Manhattan, one known for its grandeur and charm. The room they gave me was on the 6th floor, room 609. It looked perfectly ordinary: a king-sized bed, a small desk, and an old gilded mirror above the dresser. The first night passed uneventfully, but on the second night, something changed. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the feeling of someone watching me. The room was cold, much colder than it should have been even for December. I glanced around but saw nothing unusual. Shaking it off, I went back to sleep. The next night, I was jolted awake by a loud knock on my door. Groggy, I got up and checked through the peephole. There was no one there. I opened the door, only to find the hallway completely empty. Uneasy, I shut the door and locked it. That's when I noticed something. The mirror on the dresser, it was tilted slightly, as if someone had moved it. I distinctly remembered it being straight. I approached it, and as I did, I saw something in the reflection. A shadow, tall and human-like, standing in the corner of the room, near the window. But when I turned around, the corner was empty. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I decided to ask the front desk if they had any complaints about room 609. The receptionist's face turned pale. "You're staying in 609, she whispered. She went on to explain that several guests had reported strange occurrences in that room: cold drafts, disembodied knocks, and sightings of a shadowy figure. The hotel tried not to assign that room unless it was absolutely necessary. I packed my bags and checked out immediately. To this day, I still can't explain what I saw, but I know one thing: whatever was in room 609 wasn't human. During a trip to Paris, I booked a room at a charming boutique hotel near Montmartre. The hotel was quaint and old, with narrow hallways and creaky wooden floors. My room, 214, had a beautiful view of the Eiffel Tower, but something about it felt heavy. The air was thick, and the smell of lavender lingered, as if someone had sprayed it to mask something. The first night, I heard faint crying. At first, I thought it was coming from another room. It was soft, almost mournful, and distinctly feminine. I pressed my ear to the wall, but the sound seemed to be coming from inside my own room. Chills ran down my spine. The next morning, I mentioned the noise to the receptionist, but she gave me a strange look. "There's no one in the rooms next to yours," she said. "They're under renovation." That night, the crying returned, louder this time. It was coming from the bathroom. I mustered the courage to open the door, and as I did, the crying stopped abruptly. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror above the sink was fogged up, as if someone had just been in there. Written in the condensation were the words, "Help me." I stumbled back, heart racing. I didn't sleep a minute that night. By dawn, I checked out early, leaving the hotel staff puzzled. Later, I learned that a woman had died in room 214 decades ago, an apparent suicide after being abandoned by her lover. Her spirit, they say, still lingers, crying for help that will never come. Last summer, I visited Edinburgh and stayed at a centuries-old inn tucked away on a cobblestone street. The building had a storied history, once serving as a tavern for travelers in the 1700s. My room, 303, was at the end of a long, dimly lit hallway. The first 2 nights were uneventful, but on the third night, as I returned from dinner, I noticed something strange. The room next to mine, 304, had its door slightly ajar, though I'd never seen anyone come or go from it. Curious, I peeked inside. The room was dark, with only the faint outline of furniture visible. I called out, but no one answered. That night, I was awoken by the sound of footsteps outside my door. They were slow and deliberate, pacing back and forth. I checked the peephole, but the hallway was empty. As I turned to go back to bed, I froze. My door handle was moving, rattling, as if someone were trying to get in. Grabbing my phone, I called the front desk. The attendant assured me that no one should be on my floor and sent a staff member to check. When they arrived, the hallway was empty, and the rattling had stopped. The next morning, I asked about room 304. The staff exchanged uneasy glances before one of them finally spoke. "There is no room 304, she said. That part of the building was sealed off decades ago. I insisted that I'd seen the door, but they shook their heads. That night, I left the hotel and stayed elsewhere. I don't know what I saw or heard, but the thought of a room that doesn't exist, and whatever might be inside it, still haunts me."